Hello everyone, my name is Ali from Geek and Faerie Tarot, and I'm here today to bring you your monthly tarot forecast for the month of November. I can't believe it's already November 2018. Now this month I decided to use my Game of Thrones tarot cards because I haven't used this deck for a forecast yet, so I'm super excited to do that. I've already drawn the cards, and the first card I drew is the Queen of Spears. Now this is the card that tells us what energy we're bringing in the month, how we're starting off the month, and in this card we see Daenerys presiding over the recently reopened fighting pits in Meereen. Now, she had closed them down because it was something she didn't morally agree with, but after discussing it with the people of Meereen and consulting her advisors, it was decided that it was in everybody's best interest to keep them open. There were more benefits than costs, so even though she wasn't happy to be there, she was making her presence known. It was a social statement. It was a socio-political statement. So she was putting herself out there on display to show the city that she supported their cultural practices. Now, what does this mean for us? So this month, it's about, I feel like a lot of us are feeling this calling to put ourselves out there, to put ourselves on display or showcase a talent or, reveal a hidden talent or be more social, a different outlook on how we present ourselves, or, maybe we want to change our social habits, be a bit more friendly, a bit more open, a bit more social, or maybe it's about showing off hidden talents or new talents, making ourselves a little bit vulnerable. I think we have this calling to show off. I guess we have something to show off, something to show, something to prove to people, something or prove to ourselves. And we're feeling that calling and we're bringing that energy into the month of November. Now, the second card I pulled is all about the challenges we're going to encounter this month, and I drew the Three of Swords reversed. Now, the flaming heart is the symbol of the Lord of Light, R'hllor. I think I said that right, R'hllor. And the swords that pierce it are symbolic of the three houses that were at war in Game of Thrones. So the Starks, the Lannisters, and the Baratheons. Now the sword in the center is the sword Oathkeeper. Brienne's sword, Oathkeeper. So there's kind of a hint with that particular sword, I think, piercing the heart in that an oath has not been kept or a promise has not been kept. So there's some associated sorrow or disappointment or betrayal or some kind of emotional setback. Now this is both founded, I think, a little bit in reality, but a little bit blown out of proportion at the same time. So a lot of this is just fear in our head of what will people think, because here we are ready to do something we've never done before or show off, like I said, make ourselves vulnerable. And that takes a lot of courage and confidence to be able to do that. And so I feel like this is telling us that there's no promise that it's all going to go smoothly. Things can and probably will go bad. Not to sound all doom and gloom, because I will get to the next card, but I think a lot of this, the biggest challenge is fear. It's kind of being prepared to confront that and not letting your imagination go too wild, so that fear is what prevents you from going forward and putting yourself out there. So you may want to ask yourself who you are most afraid of letting down, yourself or others, and how does the answer to that question put things in a different perspective for you? Now, the third card is our action forward, and it's kind of an interesting action, I thought, was the Four of Spears reversed. So I'll show you upright. It's the garden, implies there's some kind of celebration happening here. Now, the book described this scene as the gardens at the Red Keep preparing for some celebration. But when I look at this card, I feel like those two figures walking in the background remind me of Marcella and Tristan, who were engaged and about to get married. That's just me, though. That's just what I see when I look at this card. Now, the fact that it's in reverse, I feel like what this is saying is it's reminding you to slow down. What we don't want to do this month is jump the gun. We might be super excited about this idea that we have, or we might get this boost of confidence and we just want to like throw ourselves to the wolves and just do it. But I feel like this card is cautioning. It's like, don't get too far ahead of yourself. What you want to do this month is take a step back and make sure that you're prepared. So what you want to do is make sure that you have lots of practice, that you've built up a solid portfolio or resume, that you have all the training that you need, that you've sought advice from people who've been there before you, and that you are prepared for the challenges and the successes that are about to come your way. Because I feel like, remember, Daenerys, here she had her own reasons for being hesitant. She did it anyway. She put herself out there. And don't forget that just after this scene, she was almost assassinated. So I feel like there's clues in these cards saying, like, there's no promise that everything's going to go smooth and perfectly. You might receive some criticism, or maybe you just aren't going to please everybody. So are you prepared to encounter the haters out there who they just aren't your people? But if you jump the gun and you get too far ahead of yourself, I feel like you're gonna set yourself up for disappointment, that something will happen and immediately discourage you, and then that's it. You're like, well, I tried, I'm done, I'm never going back, because you weren't prepared to go forward with confidence, to be able to brush it off, to be able to say, oh, or defend your art or your skill or your talent. You know, there's some energy like that that's happening this month. So your calling is correct. You should still move forward. This is validation that you need to move forward, but you need to slow down. Back it up. Don't get too excited. You do not want to just wing it. You want to be as prepared as you can. There will be some obstacles, some challenges along the way, some things you got to face, some things that might hurt your feelings or disappoint you, or, you know, hopefully it's more constructive feedback, not just hurtful criticism. That's not something you want, but you also need to be maybe prepared for that, and be prepared to just, oh, those aren't my people, don't care what they think, or receive criticism and then use that criticism to make yourself even better moving forward. So there is, you know, the Four of Spears is a good card. It is about passion and celebrating, but it's in the reverse position, so it's kind of like you need to have all your ducks in a row first. You have to make sure that you have done everything you need to do behind the scenes before you open that curtain and show the world, if that makes sense. Now, as usual, I have drawn a card from the Good Tarot to give us an affirmation for the month, and this month I drew the Five of Air. So let me read you the affirmation. Conflict is a good way to see my motives and intentions. So conflict, criticism, perhaps, that can spur up conflict. If you find yourself getting really defensive, you can kind of examine, well, why does that trigger me? Why am I feeling so triggered or so defensive about what this person has said? And does it matter what they said? I can use this experience to grow into a more authentic version of myself. It's not important to win. It's important to have integrity. Other people have different ways of thinking and may not always be in agreement with me. So there's those challenges of hurt feelings, disappointment, not making the impression that you had in mind the first go around. I am open to this opportunity to live and let live. So not everybody's opinion matters. The best way to combat those conflicts and that tension and that defensiveness is to prepare, to have all your ducks in a row, to do everything you can do behind the scenes that will build your confidence so that when you do put yourself out there, you know that you have a strong product or service or whatever it is that you are doing out there, and you can present yourself or your work with confidence and be able to avoid any embarrassing or discouraging situations that may arise. Like, for example, say you've written a book and you're ready to distribute it or get it published, and you don't know that you need perhaps an agent, an editor, and be rejected 200 times before the average author gets published. I don't know if that's the true number or not. I just made that up. But let's just say it's 200 rejections is the norm, and you put your book out there and are accepted after 50 rejections. Doesn't mean those rejections don't hurt, but that's a pretty big win, as opposed to not being prepared, getting rejected first go around, throwing your book out, giving up because your feelings are hurt or you feel like you're never good enough because you haven't done the background work to build up that confidence to know that that is the norm and it doesn't mean anything necessarily, and it's okay. Because when you compare 200 rejections to 50 rejections is a pretty good win, if you ask me, when you compare the results. So that is your forecast for the month of November. Until next time, stay shiny and keep sparkling, guys. Bye!